You also hear fantastic spellbinding music by Gabor Szabo. The first time I heard Gabor Szabo was in a friend's house, Jimmy Martinez. He started giggling like, I said, "What are you giggling about, man? Man, I got something to show you. Gonna crack you up, man." And he put Gabor Szabo, and there was no piano, no keyboards, just congas and guitar and Ron Carter. And it was Chico Hamilton's Conquistadores en Huelva. And you hear the congas, the cowbell, and they're like, and then by the time he set up like a mantra, everybody comes in, and then he goes. Discovering Gabor Szabo in 1966, it was a time of a lot of turmoil, and also a time of like the Beatles coming out of their cutesy, lollipop, teeny bopper stuff. They were going more towards like Bob Dylan. They were more like deep, in other words. And so again, the Beatles were a good medium to help me get from Bibi to Gabor, because as I said, before with the and I love her kind of thing, the Beatles were already crossing through the guru thing, and so they were starting to interject into their music a deeper thought, kind of like pop, And then you see Gabor Szabo playing The Beat Goes On. You see Gabor playing White Rabbit, So it was all merging without becoming confusion or fusion. It was merging very naturally. El Matador is the club here on Broadway Street in San Francisco. This is where Gabor Szabo would play, and he played something like this at El Matador. His approach is more basic than Hendrix. Hendrix' feedback it started, apparently, according to Noel Redding, he was playing the blues really cool. Whatever he was playing, and some bikers got really excited in Germany, and they rushed the stage. And when they rushed the stage, Jimmy got paranoid. He thought they were going to take his guitar away from him, so his guitar was full blast. He threw it like that behind him, and when it landed, it started screaming like an aurora borealis. That's the only way to describe it. You know, you've seen an aurora borealis, right? Northern Lights, like that. And then, so Jimmy looked at the guitar, and there, you know, all of a sudden, there's Monterey. You know, Gabor Szabo's feedback is not as untamed, as more tame, because it's not dealing with the psychedelic acid mescaline configuration yet. He was more into the feedback like a drone. Because he listened to Indian music. So he used feedback as a drone instead of like a blackboard to paint colors on it. You know, that's the only way that I can describe the two individual approach to feedback. Gabor was very focused on Gabor. You know, I know that he stayed over at my house and we hung out, but I can tell that by his demeanor that, you know, he listened to other things, but not as much as he listened to his own stuff. In other words, like he was very, not self-centered, but he was on himself. You know, he only take from people just a little bit, enough what he needed. But with him, he could just grab Bang Bang, Sonny and Cher, My Foolish Heart, or Autumn Leaves, and just immediately make it sound like it's the first time you ever heard that song. It takes a very strong soul personality, not so much like an ego personality, but a soul personality to be able to put your fingerprints on somebody else's song. You know, Miles Davis said, My Fanny Valentine. Aretha Franklin said, I'm Eleanor Rigby, and I pick up the rice. And when she started singing it, you say she's Eleanor Rigby, you know? The Beatles wrote the song about her. Aretha took respect away from Otis Redding. You know, it's really hard once Barbra Streisand or somebody puts their mark on something, it's theirs, you know? So it takes a musician to come a whole other kind of way to do something with it. And he would play People or all kinds of other songs and immediately put his mark on it. You have to go home and turn off the TV, unplug the phone, unplug everything, and plug in yourself and disconnect yourself and then pull the song apart, put it back together. By the time you put it together again, people are going to say, man, you know, I heard that song many, many times, but I never heard it that way. Well, because we took the time. Individuality and uniqueness is very, very welcome. You know, it's a drag when you say, who's that? It sounds like, no. You know, you say, oh, that's Wes, or that's Jimmy, or that's John Lee, you know. It's more welcome like that. You know, so it's important that people do discover their own fingerprints. Gabor Szabo, when I saw him, every time he would turn into like a roly-poly kind of thing. He just go like that. I mean, Bill Graham used to call Eric Clapton one of the tightest dancers, close dancers. You know, he says, Eric Clapton dances really close, you know. But Gabor was the same way, you know, they get into this kind of thing. Even though they're standing up, they're kind of, I don't know how they do it, kind of like that, you know. And next thing you know, they're in another world and you're in another world. There's something really beautiful about that song because it teaches you to pray and cuss at the same time. Like, get your face out of, like that. It's like almost when you see a woman put her hand on her hip and then start doing the cobra thing, that you're in trouble, And certain licks do the same thing. They're very expressive, And I love him because he pulled me out of BB, BB had me like this in a headlock, and I wasn't the only one. He had a whole bunch of us like that, As I said before, he had Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, just about everybody. Michael Bloomfield, Peter Green, we all wanted to be B.B. King when we grow up. And as soon as we grew up, then we discovered everybody else, Gabor, Szabo, and West. Some of us, some people just discovered their own. Me, I'm still discovering myself and things that I love from West or Gabor. But Gabor was the first one who got me out of BB, before Bolosete or West Montgomery. In fact, Gabor was the freeway exit out from B.B. King Freeway. He was the exit for me. Because, as I said before, B.B. really had me, on a spell. And when I heard Gabor, I never knew there was other possibilities to do with the guitar. All of a sudden, I could hear what he hears with Miles, or what he hears on Singers, or what he hears with Ravi Shankar. And so the guitar became even more fun to play, because you weren't just like constricted to the same licks or the same approach, the same route home. All of a sudden you have less is more. It's very difficult to do. You have to take the time to hang out with yourself and bring in, first is you have the task of picking up BB, certain things, picking up Gabor, picking up Bolosete or West. And then the final thing is to peel yourself like a snake peels itself from all that skin. Joe Pass, Pat Martino, George Benson. And once you peel yourself, then it sounds like you. Yeah? So that's what you have to practice late at night or when it's really quiet. You have to practice to shed yourself from everybody that you like. That's really, but first you should learn it. First you should learn this music, and then later on you like a snake, you get rid of that old skin and then you find your own.